One of the things I wanted to point out this morning, and it's a pretty important point, is that isolation leads to defeat. Self-isolation and the embarrassment that comes from living with an addict and the kind of isolation that an addict takes themselves into. But isolation leads to defeat. If you have an addict in your life, this is not a problem you can solve on your own. This is something that takes support and encouragement from a group of other people that have walked through that particular experience of addiction. You're not going to solve this problem on your own. You're not going to go find some doctor that's going to give you the right answers. There's no easy solution. These are family problems. These are incredibly complicated problems, and they are unique to each family and each situation. So please don't isolate yourself, please. That's one of the reasons I'm doing this is to encourage you to engage in a 12-step program so you can get the help, love, and support that you need to manage and flourish in the circumstance you find yourself in. March 8th, one of the wonderful benefits I receive by going to Al-Anon meetings is that I find new ways to work my program. The chairperson at one of my favorite meetings passed around a basket full of Al-Anon slogans and suggested that we each take one and try to apply it to this day. It was remarkable how many of us seemed to get the perfect slogan. The very next day, I found myself in a stressful situation. I was struggling to solve a tough problem, growing frustrated and upset, but no closer to a solution. I asked my higher power for help and suddenly remembered that basket. In my mind, I imagined myself reaching once more into a basket full of slogans, and again I got exactly what I needed. The slip of paper I pictured reminded me that, quote, easy does it. I stopped trying to force a solution and waited until I could approach the problem more gently. I felt much better, my thinking was clearer, and in time the solution appeared. Today's reminder, it is not always easy to know which Al-Anon tool to apply, especially in the middle of a crisis. I am grateful for a higher power who knows my needs and for meetings that help me to find a new way to put these tools to work in my life. And the quote is, as we learn to depend upon our higher power through applying the Al-Anon program to our lives, fear and uncertainty are replaced by faith and confidence. And that's from One Day at a Time in Al-Anon. I also wanted to say that I realize many of the challenges that you see on the table in Al-Anon seem daunting at first. Like, how am I going to learn to have self-control? How do I apply that? It seems like an awful lot. And as I was reading over this morning, I recalled something. I had a child who was born crippled and his feet weren't attached to his ankles properly. And he couldn't do surgery until he was about 10 and had that surgery. And he had to learn to do everything all over again. He had to learn to walk, well, crawl, walk, move all over again. And I remember watching the process thinking, wow, how long is this going to take? It took about a year, but the interesting thing is that, he already knew how to walk. He had that muscle memory. His body knew what to do. He had to do it differently because his body was functioning better. He had to adjust, which took some time, but he learned very quickly. So I share this personal story um, as a source of encouragement to you that, when we're kids, we don't always get the protection we need. We don't have perfect parents. We don't have perfect role models, and we misplace things in our head and misinterpret things and jumble things up and confuse them. And as adults, it really is our job to go back and kind of revisit those things and replay them, replace them, and figure out how to emotionally walk in a more mature way. And that if you really embrace that process, it's not going to take you 40 years. Don't be discouraged. maturity, emotional maturity, intellectual, spiritual maturity can happen pretty quickly because you know you have a foundation. You just have to clean some things up. So I say this is a source of encouragement, and I pray that you are blessed this day.